Welcome to Channel Today in History. In today's video we will talk about the day, November 20th, 1910, Mexican Revolution. The Mexican Revolution was an armed conflict that took place in Mexico, beginning on November 20th, 1910. Historically, it is often described as the most important political and social event of the 20th century in Mexico. The conflict's antecedents go back to the situation in Mexico during the Porfiriato. Since 1876, General Porfirio Diaz led the exercise of power in the country in a dictatorial manner. The situation lasted for 34 years, during which Mexico experienced remarkable economic growth and political stability. These achievements took place at high economic and social costs, paid for by the less favored strata of society and by the political opposition to the Diaz regime. During the first decade of the 20th century, several crises broke out in different spheres of national life, which reflected the growing discontent of some sectors with the Porfiriato. When Diaz assured in an interview that he would retire at the end of his term without seeking re-election, the political situation began to shake. Opposition to the government became relevant given the stance expressed by Diaz. In this context, Francisco I. Madero carried out several rounds across the country with a view to forming a political party that would elect its candidates in a national assembly and compete in elections. Diaz launched a new candidacy for the presidency, and Madero was detained in San Luis Potosí for sedition. During his stay in jail, elections were held that gave Diaz the victory. Madero managed to escape from state prison and fled to the United States. From San Antonio he proclaimed the San Luis Plan, which called for taking up arms against the Diaz government on November 20th, 1910. The armed conflict initially took place in the north of the country, later spreading to other parts of Mexican territory. Once the insurgents occupied Ciudad Juárez, Chihuahua, Porfirio Diaz presented his resignation and went into exile in France. In 1911 new elections were realized which resulted in the election of Madero. Since the beginning of his term, he had differences with other revolutionary leaders, which provoked the uprising of Emiliano Zapata and Pascual Orozco against the Maderista government. In 1913 a counter-revolutionary movement, led by Felix Diaz, Bernardo Reyes and Victoriano Huerta, staged a coup d'état. The military uprising, known as the Decena Tragica, ended with the murder of Madero, his brother Gustavo, and Vice President Pino Suarez. Huerta assumed the presidency, which provoked the reaction of several revolutionary leaders, such as Venustiano Carranza and Francisco Villa. After little more than a year of struggle, and after the U.S. occupation of Veracruz, Huerta resigned from the presidency and fled the country. After this event, the differences between the factions that had fought against Huerta deepened, triggering new conflicts. Carranza, head of the revolution according to the Plan of Guadalupe, called all forces to the Convention of Aguascalientes to name a single leader. At that meeting, Eulalio Gutierrez was appointed president of the country, but hostilities resumed when Carranza rejected the agreement. After defeating the convention, the constitutionalists were able to begin work on drafting a new constitution and lead Carranza to the presidency in 1917. The struggle between factions was far from over. During the readjustment of forces, the main revolutionary leaders were assassinated: Zapata in 1919, Carranza in 1920, Villa in 1923, and Obregón in 1928. There is currently no consensus on when the revolutionary process ended. Some sources place it in the year 1917, with the proclamation of the Constitution of Mexico, some others in 1920 with the presidency of Adolfo de la Huerta, or 1924 with that of Plutarco Elias Calles. There are even some who claim that the process lasted until the 1940s. More than 2 million Mexicans died in the war. Did you like the video? In the description you will find the blog link with the full article. Give an incentive by subscribing to the channel, liking, commenting, and sharing with your friends. Hugs. Until the next.